Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about the recent imposition of President rule in Manipur. And in this context, term that is coming into news is that the Manipur's State Assembly after the imposition of President rule has been kept under the suspended animation. So what does President rule entails? From what part of constitution does it derives? And what do we understand and mean by the term suspended animation? Let us try to understand this in more detail. But first of all, to give you the background and context of this particular issue, recently the Manipur's Chief Minister N. Biren Singh has resigned. And after his resignation, the center announced that President's rule had been imposed in the Manipur and the State Assembly is placed under suspended animation. Now this, many experts argue, closes a chapter and opens another in the state of Manipur, which at least since May 2023 has been under the grip or the clutches of ethnic violence, ethnic strife. You talk about in the Manipur, you have several groups, that is tribals and non-tribals. Tribal group largely you have the majority of Kuki and Naga tribes, while the non-tribal groups are largely the Meitei, which reside in the valleys of the Manipur. Now, in this context, President Draupadi Murmu's decision has come after her consultation with the current governor of Manipur, who is A.K. Bhalla, that is the Ajay Kumar Bhalla. So, after having discussion with Ajay Kumar Bhalla, the decision has come and it was announced hours after two houses of parliament, that is the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, were adjourned and adjourned for almost 10 days before they resume working again or resume the session again. Now, before President rule was imposed in the state of Manipur, looking at the sensitivity and the overall ethnic conflict in the Manipur, a security plan was prepared by the Ministry of Home Affairs, and also state police and intelligence agencies were monitoring movement of certain individuals so any untoward incident can be prevented. Also, accepting Singh's resignation, the government issued a notification where the assembly session was next and it was declared null and void on the 10th of February. So in the Manipur House of 60 talk about assembly elections in the state are not due until 2027 and we are still in the 2025. So 2 years still are before the government could have completed its term. Now when we talk about the president rule, it comes or the power derives from the Article 356 of the Constitution. And that is why while declaring president rule in the state, the President of India has said that in exercise of the powers conferred by Article 356 of the Constitution, I hereby proclaim that I assume to myself as President of India all functions of the government of Manipur and all powers vested in or exercisable by the governor of that state, and declares that the powers of the legislature of the said state will be exercisable by or under the authority of Parliament. In effect, when a president rule is imposed in a particular state, what happens? The power that is generally vested in the state government, all this goes and is transferred, we can say, to the central government. And similarly, all the power that is vested in the legislature or legislative assembly of the state, that is then to be exercised by the Parliament of India unless and until the president rule is revoked. Now, when you talk about the Manipur and the president rule, it has a long history of such rule. For example, it marks the 11th time the president's rule has been imposed in this state. And in the overall, if you talk about the entire India, Manipur is also counted as among the state with highest instances of president rule. The number already discussed is 11. We talk about the first such instance, it was in the month of January till March 19 in the year 1967, the president rule was imposed for 66 days. The longest was, however, if talk about the president rule imposition in the state of Manipur, was for a period of 2 years and 157 days from October 17, 1969 to March 22, 1972 because of the violent this state, or you can say the instances of violence in that state. The latest instance was 277 days from 2001 to March 6, 2002. So at that time, Risang Kai Singh of the Congress became the first chief minister to complete his full term, because obviously so many times president rule has been imposed, very few chief ministers have been able to complete the tenure of 5 years. So Risang Kai Singh of the Congress, they became the first chief minister to complete his full term. Okram Ibobi Singh of the Congress was the first chief minister to finish not one but 3 terms. So this is how we can understand the history of president rule in the state. Now, as we have discussed that it is the Article 356 of the Constitution from which derives the power of president rule. So, what does this article largely state? So, first of all, it says that it effectively transfers all the functions of the state government to the center and functions of the state legislature to the parliament during the period when the president rule is enforced. The only exception to this is the functioning of High Court. As far as the functioning of High Court is concerned, there is no effect on its roles, responsibilities and power under the President rule. Apart from this, the process begins if the President, on receiving a report from Governor, is satisfied that a situation has arisen in a state where the government of the state cannot be carried on in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution of India. So obviously, when the Chief Minister resigns, basically what happens, a situation or such kind of situation is arisen, and that is why currently the President rule has been imposed. Now, what happens if the President rule is imposed in the state? In that case, there is again a provision in the Constitution of India. First of all, the President will have to issue a proclamation, and after the issuance of this proclamation, the President rule can remain in force in the state for up to 2 months. Now, after 2 months, what will happen? After 2 months, the Lok Sabha, or within the period 2 months, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, both the houses of parliament, must approve it through a resolution before this period expire for it to remain operative further. If suppose the both houses of parliament approve, the proclamation of president's rule can be extended further for a period of 6 months. And then parliament can keep on giving the subsequent approval, and the president rule can be kept extended for a 6-month period, and this can go all the way up to 3 years. So the maximum period to which president rule can be imposed in this case also can be 3 years, and within that or after that the elections have to be conducted. Now, in the beginning, we have talked about that after the imposition of the president rule or the coming up of the proclamation of the President of India, the State Assembly of Manipur is not dissolved, rather it is kept in the suspended animation. So, when you talk about the term dissolution, it means all the members of Legislative Assembly will basically will lose their power, will lose their seat, and they'll have to conduct fresh elections in the state. But when you talk about the suspended animation, we can say that the assembly is placed in the under suspended animation. What it means? It means it can be revived whenever it becomes possible. When can it become possible? Obviously, when the president rule is revoked from the state. So, to form a popular government after president rule is revoked. That means in the current state or the current status of Manipur Legislative Assembly is not dissolved, rather it is in the state of suspended animation. The current proclamation by the President of India has temporarily only suspended the constitutional function of the Legislative Assembly. So, the moment the proclamation is revoked, suppose that I told you that within 2 months of the proclamation, both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha has to further approve the president rule. If suppose they do not approve the president rule, in that case the proclamation has to be revoked, and again the Legislative Assembly will be revived. Again the members of Legislative Assembly can attend the house and can carry out the business of the house, and also at that time they can try to form a new government by a coalition and all. So, the moment the proclamation is revoked, the constitutional suspension would end and the legislature would spring back to life. So, this is how we can differentiate between the suspended animation and the permanent dissolution of the house. Now, as far as the suspended animation is concerned, a Supreme Court, while hearing a case that is popularly referred as SR Bombay case, has stated that we should be cautious about granting unfettered powers of dissolution to the president under an Article 356 proclamation, because it would both be fraught with danger and add to the constitution a measure its founder never intended. So that is why the suspended animation is something that serve as what we can call as a restriction on the unfettered power of the president under the Constitution of India. However, many of the legal luminaries have basically opposed the clause of suspended animation or the practice of suspended animation. The reason is because first they say that when talking about the suspended animation, it has never been mentioned in the Constitution of India. So many times it does not have any kind of constitutional basis or constitutional sanction. Second basis is if the parliament anyway is taking over all the powers of legislative assembly. That is what actually happens when the president rule is imposed in state. When president gives the proclamation, what is the point of keeping an assembly alive? Again, it seems an unconstitutional mechanism or unconstitutional method. So both kind of argument we have, where the Supreme Court has supported the suspended animation while some of the legal experts have opposed it. Now we know that this entire development has come in the state of Manipur, which has remained disturbed for almost last 2 years, we can say, because of the ethnic conflict. So the first objective of the government under the even president rule, central government should be bringing normalcy back to Manipur. However, there are several things that we have to keep in mind here. First of all, it depends on the ability of the authorities to expeditiously investigate and bring to book the perpetrators of violence. Now, this can be possible because central government can then also impose AFSPA, that is Armed Forces Special Power Acts, if situation turns more bad in this area. Second, they also have to emphasize on bringing closer the people who have suffered during last 2 years because of the ethnic violence and conflict. They will have to bring to the negotiating table both the warring parties so that they can discuss their concern and then some kind of settlement can be reached. As you have discussed that in the Manipur, you have largely conflict that has begun between the Meiteis, which are the non-tribal group living in the valleys of Manipur, and then we have Kuki-Jo and Naga tribe that are living on the hill area, which belong to the tribal categories. So basically both of the parties, tribals and non-tribals, should be brought to the negotiating table. For that, it is essential to identify such individuals and organizations who are independent and impartial, and that is going to be one of the major role central government will have to play under the president rule, because now the entire responsibility lies on its head. So that is all about this particular video. I hope you got the gist of what is president rule and what is specifically suspended animation in which the Manipur State Legislative Assembly has been kept under. So if you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you.